do the Vols really have to recruit with Nico under center? Now, I don't think you mean recruit forever. Obviously, they have to have talent around him. What are you driving at here? Because I'm interested. I will say this. I think Nico
Iamaleava.
will recruit for Tennessee by his play. I don't know if that's what you're driving at. What exactly are you driving at? Because sometimes at that 3:45 a.m. meeting, I just shut up and I want to hear it live. I don't do the show in the parking lot. What do you mean by does Tennessee have to recruit with Nico in tow?
Okay, so Tennessee, we have seen this with players before. Johnny Manziel did this for Texas A&M during Kevin Sumlin's first 3 years there. Sometimes when you get a generational player, the success of that player, if they're there for more than a year. So I'm not pointing out Cam Newton because everybody knew Cam Newton was there for a year and everybody knew Cam Newton was gone after a year. So that one doesn't count. But if you get a player like Nico, who you know is there for at least 2 years, when you get a player like Peyton Manning to Tennessee in 1994, even, their presence can help you recruit athletes because athletes will say, I want a chance to play for that guy. And I'm bringing up the transfer portal in this too, by the way. Now,
by the way, Tennessee is not going to have to pay a bunch of players to stay after this year. They're going to slay it in the transfer portal heading into the 2025 season. I don't want to get too far ahead, but just talking to somebody who gave me a little bit of insight. I mean, they had to pay some guys to stay, but go right ahead.
That's where I'm at. And what happens after the transfer portal after 2024, everybody who on a national scale is going to see how good Nico is. Whatever our expectations are, you believe Nico is going to just wow everybody with how he plays, right, Dave?
Yes.
Next year.
And I've got a really good comparison I think you'll like here when you're done.
Okay, so I agree. Nico wows everybody. Tennessee doesn't have to pay a bunch of money to keep players so they can slate in the transfer portal. There will be receivers lining up outside and offensive linemen lining up outside to go play at Tennessee next year in the offseason of the transfer portal. And the other part is I think Nico with Josh Heupel is such a generational combination. We've seen this in the past. It doesn't happen often, but you've seen, Dave, right, where a quarterback coach combo is so good it makes up for the lack of talent everywhere else.
Yes.
And I mean, Cam Newton, that Auburn team was not good, right? No, how many players from that Auburn team played in the NFL?
Oh, Cam. And there were a couple
Nick
linebackers.
Fairley.
There were a couple linebackers.
Right. I think there were 6 players from that Auburn team that played in the NFL. But that's typically SEC teams have like 10 to 15 players that make it to the NFL. Auburn had 6, and they still won a national title because Cam Newton was playing with Gus Malzahn. I think Nico and Josh Heupel is that same type of combination. So I don't care about the talent everywhere else. They're going to be so good together that Nico's just going to blow everybody away. And then you're going to see a lot of recruits and young players lining up to go to Tennessee at that point because they're going to be like, wow, this offense is just going to blow me away. I want to be a part of this.
From a pure recruiting perspective, I'm going to make the comparison that Nico
Iamaleava.
needs to be Mike Vick for Virginia Tech. And I was talking to an NFL scout, and he said that's what it takes. You either have to hire an incredible coach, which right now I wouldn't call Josh Heupel incredible. I would call him very, very good. Do we know if he's elite or not? I don't know. I got to see something in the playoffs. I got to see, I think he's made a couple of young mistakes. Alabama game, for instance, I don't think they were overly prepared for the Missouri game. So I don't know that he's elite now. But the scout told me, he said, you either hire an elite coach or you get an elite quarterback. An elite quarterback can change your program. And look at Virginia Tech. Are we even mentioning Virginia Tech if not for Mike Vick? Did that not change the perception of their program? And we're talking about 2 decades ago. That's what you want Nico to be. You want him to be Mike Vick.
And let's not forget, after Mike Vick was at Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer and Virginia Tech joined the ACC in 04. They won the ACC title in 04, 07, 08, and 2010. Remember, they were the class of the ACC when they joined for the first 6 or 7 years. And here's a big difference. Mike Vick went to play for Frank Beamer, and Frank Beamer wasn't some offensive guru. He was a special teams guru. That was his thing, and a good runner of a program on top of that. What Frank Beamer did was found creative ways to win because of special teams.
and had a great defensive coordinator.
Yes, and had a great Bud Foster, who should have gotten the head coaching job after Beamer retired, but that's a different story altogether. Yeah, so with Nico, you're seeing a guy who this would be like if Mike Vick went. Who would have been the perfect coach? You know who would have been great with Mike Vick is Mark Richt. Mark Richt was great at coaching quarterbacks like Mike Vick during that time. Charlie Ward, I guess, is remember when he coached Charlie Ward in 93 and 94?
Florida State. Yeah.
Yeah. This would be like if Mike Vick went to go play for Mark Richt. Nico is that generational game-changing quarterback that would change any program, and he's going to play for a coach who knows exactly how to use him, who will use him perfectly. Again, I say it, Tim Tebow, Urban Meyer. Does Urban Meyer get the number one class, Dave, in 2007 if Tim Tebow's not there? I know they won the national title in 06, so okay, you can. But we all agreed, I think even you thought at the time, like, okay, Urban Meyer's good schematically, but that was Ron Zook recruits that won it. And you didn't know if it was going to sustain itself.
Okay, a couple people on the message board have some issues with Caleb. And first of all, Travis says Nico invented the internet. But then it all culminates with what SC Scout guy says. Caleb, you have to stop doing this, man. That poor kid is going to have so much expectation on him. He is still a young man. Anything can happen. I'm backing. Don't make him do his voice. I'm backing Caleb on this because of everything I've heard about Nico since he stepped on campus, that he can handle that pressure. And we're not talking about any added pressure. All he still has to do is go out and play ball and win games. I mean, he's not going to go actively recruit people on a plane and fly around. I mean, we're not talking about anything he has to do better. We're just talking about the impact he has on this program. And I've also been told repeatedly, as I've told you way back in December of 2022, that he has that presence and that he has the broad, strong shoulders that will be able to handle the pressure. So, SC Scout guy, I see where you're coming from. And in years past, I would be totally with you. Is it too early to play Casey Clausen? Is it too early to play this guy or that guy? No, I think Nico's fine. And I thought the same thing about Casey, and I was right about that, using just one example. I'm not worried that there's too much pressure on him. And he also created sliced bread, Smoky Mountain Red said. So I see your point on the message board, but all he has to do is play. We're not asking him. Nobody's asking him to go out and recruit.
Yeah, this is like Tim Tebow at Florida. I bring him up. Tim Tebow had how much hype as a freshman? Wasn't Florida expecting Heisman no matter what when the minute he went there? And when Tebow committed to Florida and won the Heisman, Tebow was a homeschooled kid. He probably wasn't ready for like all the attention that he got playing at Florida, but he handled it perfectly. You know who else handled the expectations perfectly? Peyton Manning. Everybody. There was the Peyton Manning, Brandon Stewart debate, but Dave, let's be honest, because there was a lot of pressure on Peyton because of his father's legacy when he went to Tennessee and handled it masterfully. Sometimes intangibles you can trust. This is why, by the way, I still believe, you can call me crazy, I'm still a believer in Bryce Young in the NFL. I think Bryce Young will still end up better than CJ Stroud in the NFL. And I don't care how bad he was this year. I think Bryce Young is mentally tough enough to handle everything that was thrown at him this year. It was kind of like Peyton Manning's rookie year in Indianapolis. And I think if anybody can handle it, Peyton Manning can, and Bryce Young can. I think when things go against CJ Stroud, he won't be able to handle it, and it's going to happen. But that's a different topic. I think Nico is the type that can handle the expectations. He's not scared of them. He's not running from them. He knows what's expected of him. He has a lot of moxie, and this is why you bring it up, Dave. People say he's Bryce Young, but 6'6", and I thought about it. I'm more on y'all's side now because people were trying to do the Polynesian comparisons with Tua Tagovailoa and Marcus Mariota. But let's be honest. Tua and Mariota were I do what I'm told type of quarterbacks, right? The coach tells them what to do and they do what they're told. Nico will do what he's told, but he's definitely got a lot more moxie than those two guys, where he kind of rallies the troops. He strikes me as a rally the troops quarterback.
Yeah, and I think the Marcus Mariota comparison's a little weak, and it's a little because they have similar ethnic backgrounds, maybe. I don't know why that one keeps coming up, but I think that I don't.
People always compare the Polynesians. That's why I said that.
I know. Well, it's not just you. It's come up several times, but I just I think he has a way better arm than Marcus Mariota already. And which
would be the Tua comparison? But Tua has no moxie. I mean,
it's stereotyping. Travis points out exactly. I think the bigger Bryce Young comparison is I've run that by a couple of people, and they think that is a apt comparison that have seen him practice on a regular basis.
Yes, because Bryce Young, I know you worry about his size, but he rallied the troops against Alabama, right? He put that team on his back, and quite honestly, to their detriment, because, and I say a lot of Tennessee players did this with Peyton Manning, but I think when you have a generational player like that, Dave, I think sometimes the rest of the team doesn't step up their game the way they should, and they just try to ride the back of the quarterback to get to where they're going. But I don't think that'll be a problem with Nico, because the unlike Bryce Young and unlike even Peyton Manning in '97, is it safe to say Nico is playing in a much more quarterback-oriented offense than either of those guys did? Like, the whole team is built around the quarterback.
No, absolutely, and it's built around the quarterback, much like Mike Vick's offense was, right? If he didn't run
Mike Vick's
around,
offense was Mike, take the snap and do whatever you can.
right? If he doesn't run around and do something, maybe even more built around the quarterback of the person than in the Nico situation. But I don't have any concern about him handling the pressure at all. I really don't.
I don't either. I think Nico is going to be perfectly fine with the pressure. I've watched him on the sideline. He was so confident, and he was so calm and collected in his press conferences that I think this guy has the moxie that's needed. So, yeah, I think he. And by the way, we were talking about it earlier. I almost said he has the Nazi that's needed. I'm like, wait, I meant to say moxie. I gotta be careful with my word.
Okay, so the next superstar, I'm going to tell you who it is. I told you about 3 weeks ago, but reaffirmed from some things that I have heard, and I think that maybe the snow day proved that.